Also this, as I just mentioned, COVID-era business rate relief is being scaled back in April. This, of course, came in to help hospitality during the COVID times, but this will hit pubs and hospitality as thousands face higher bills, and some of them, as I just said, will be experiencing these incredibly just huge hikes in what they're being asked to pay for the first time. The sector has turned on Labour, with ministers acknowledging venues will struggle and calls growing for a full rate overhaul. Downing Street says falling interest rates, cheaper energy, really? Where's that? And higher wages will ease the living cost, but rising debts and food prices are blunting that kind of Labour New Year reset. Starmer has made a promise that this year, though, will be focused on people's ability to pay their bills. Have a listen.
This 2026 is the year that we're going to be turning a corner where, when we say we want national renewal of the country, and we do, it becomes a reality. And people begin to feel the difference in their pockets, in the ability to pay the bill. And that's why we're saying we're turning a corner into 2026.
There it is. Slightly difficult to hear, that one, but Keir Starmer essentially telling us 2026 is we're turning a corner. David Bailey is Professor of Business Economics at Birmingham Business School. David, good afternoon to you, sir.
Hello there.
Have you turned the corner? It's only the 6th of January. Do you feel the turn in your bones?
No, not really. I'm having a moist January. I'm trying to drink less, but still drinking. I'm still going to the pub, by the way.
Yeah, that's good. If you can do the two. I mean, some people struggle with that notion, don't they? But
Yes.
if you can do it, fantastic. But of course, going to the pub if it's open, because increasingly many areas of hospitality are facing these. I mean, it's not like your bills going up by a couple of quid. In some cases, it's tens and tens of thousands of pounds extra that businesses are being asked to pay as the COVID business rate relief is scaled back.
Yeah, there's a number of things going. I mean, let's face it, pubs were anyway in crisis. I mean, you go back to the early 2000s, there were over 60,000 pubs in the UK, down to under 39,000. And last year, roughly one pub was closing permanently every day. So the sector was in crisis anyway, and that's been a long-run trend, people drinking less and so on. But government policy really hasn't helped. Business rates for pubs are a nightmare, and partly because they're made up in a completely nonsensical way based on what a reasonable publican would turn over. They make it up, literally. So there's no incentive for publicans to actually go out and really boost their business because they're just going to get taxed more. So that's nonsensical for a start.
Yep.
We're also seeing a business rate review in April, and the scale of that in terms of the impact on the sector is enormous. So you've got these various things going on, some sort of rate relief being phased out. The government has also changed what's called the multiplier, but the rate review is phenomenal. I was looking at the case of a pub recently, and the business rates are likely to go from about 50,000 a year to over 200,000 a year.
Wow.
We are essentially overtaxing pubs. The government have seen this as an easy source of revenue. They see drink as something that is socially bad. They ignore the social value of pubs. We love going to pubs. It is one of the few third spaces between work and home where we can go and socialise. And for many places, particularly the countryside, but also some urban estates, it's the only place left. So we've got to start putting value on it, recognising that, and stop really screwing the pubs.
What do you get for your business rates?
What do you get? Okay, so business rates actually is money that goes to the local council. You get services for that. That could be, waste collection or so on. But the problem is that in some places, the pubs contribute a phenomenal proportion. There was a study done of Cape Hill in Birmingham, where you go along the high street, there's maybe 50 different premises. Only a few of them actually pay business rates. And actually, over 50% of the business rates comes from a pub. So they are unfairly burdened. And when you look at the effect of these rate increases, then on average, it's something like, a figure I've seen, something like 75% increase in rates on pubs. Whereas you look at, say, a supermarket, it's a much smaller increase. So again, they are being unfairly penalised. And essentially, the government is using it as a way of raising tax.
I mean, it's a huge amount of money, and it would be, I suppose, and I know taxation doesn't really work like this, same as your council tax. If you sat down and worked out, if your council tax is £2,000 a year, do I get £2,000 worth of services? And you might look at it and say, yeah, I do actually. I think that works out just fine. But many would argue that actually, I'm not sure that does equate quite, but... And councils, of course, are working at a loss anyway. It's not exactly covering everything, just your council tax. So they find other ways, whether it's car parking or whatever. But I guess with business rates, I wonder if over the years, councils have had almost a free rein. Because, you know, the idea that it's a business rate sort of bolsters up its legitimacy just in terms of the name, as if there's some kind of, you know, magic reason behind it. But essentially, it's just another tax, isn't it?
It's absolutely, it's a tax. The business rate revaluation is done kind of centrally anyway. It's not as if councils have got that much control over that, but it's just a way of raising taxation. And when you add in the other tax, like alcohol duty, as well as the extra costs that government has imposed on pubs in terms of minimum wage increases, which I support, by the way, but also the national insurance increases. And you can see how this particular sector, which is very labour intensive, gets massively squeezed. Now, the problem is government policy doesn't recognise the social value of pubs, you know, particularly in villages, particularly in estates where it's the last place standing. And we've got to start recognising the value of that. And actually, that is a positive for society, and it isn't something we should be taxing.
100%. Bang on. David, thank you for your time, sir. Really appreciate that. David Bailey is Professor of Business Economics at the Birmingham Business School. Thank you to him. Are you one such person in that position if you run a pub or the like? How are you finding that? If your business rates suddenly increase from £50,000, I mean, even that in itself, it's kind of George. I mean, if you're running some kind of big, huge global chain or empire, maybe you can make it work across the portfolio of your multifarious businesses in that sector. But if you're a one-man band and your business rates were 50 grand a year and they're going to go up to £200,000, I mean, it's game over, right? Even if they went up to £70,000 a year, you might, there's probably, they couldn't afford it when it was 50 grand really, but they were making it stretch just. There's only so much hike you can put on a cheeseburger and a pint in a pub. A landlord once said to me, if I had to literally claw back the money I pay out in taxation, and that included sort of staff, national insurance and pensions and the like, he said I'd be charging about £48 for cheeseburger and chips. You can't keep doing that every time there's a rise. You've got to find that middle ground. But there is a point, surely, when you say, well, sorry, this is too expensive. And there it becomes a double, a futile journey for the government, because if the pub closes, then they get nothing at all. Nothing whatsoever. It's a bit like when you run a small business and the landlord of the small business, who lives somewhere in the Cayman Islands or something, who owns loads of shops, suddenly hikes up the rent on your shop twofold. And you think, well, how can I do that? Okay, I'll have to close my business or move somewhere else. And you close your business and the shop stays closed for 2 years. There's nothing in it. It's all just boarded up. We see that a lot. I mean, it's a fool's errand, surely. 034